The butter knife caught the fluorescent light for just a moment before Mia drove it into the pressure point on the assassin's wrist. His tactical blade clattered to the floor. 26 seconds had passed since the first gunshot. She had 2 seconds left to end this. The coffee pot had already shattered someone's jaw. The steel serving tray had deflected a bullet meant for the man in the expensive suit bleeding in the corner booth. Now, as the final assassin swung his weapon toward her, Mia's muscle memory took over completely. She didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She simply moved. One fluid motion. A pivot. A strike. Silence. 28 seconds total. 5 trained killers lay groaning on the floor of Mrs. Kim's noodle shop. The most powerful crime boss in Seoul sat bleeding but alive, staring at Mia with eyes that held something between wonder and recognition. And somewhere above the atmosphere, a CIA satellite had just registered her face for the first time in 10 years. Her old life had found her. Her new life was over. And the man she'd just saved wanted to make her his queen while the government wanted her dead. It took exactly 28 seconds for Mia to ruin her life. But let me tell you how we got here, and where this story goes from that single moment of violence that changed everything. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button, drop a comment below telling me what you think so far, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and create more stories like this for you every single day. Your support means everything. Now, let's rewind to 3 hours before those 28 seconds. The evening rain painted Seoul's Itaewon district in shades of neon and shadow. Mia wiped down the counter of the Golden Bowl noodle shop for the 3rd time, her movements methodical, practiced, invisible. She'd worked here for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Not that she was counting. That would mean the numbers mattered. That would mean she thought about time as something more than the space between one moment of safety and the next. "You work too hard, child," Mrs. Kim said in Korean, emerging from the kitchen with a fresh pot of tea. The elderly woman had owned this shop for 40 years, had survived the neighborhood's transformation from working-class local haunt to trendy international district. She'd hired Mia without asking questions, paying cash, never pushing for details about the quiet foreign woman who spoke flawless Korean but avoided cameras like they carried diseases. "I like to stay busy," Mia replied, accepting the tea with a small bow. Her hands wrapped around the cup, and she positioned herself so she could see both the front entrance and the kitchen door in her peripheral vision. Old habits, old instincts that never died, just hibernated. Busy running from what? Mrs. Kim's question was gentle, probing. She asked some version of it every few months, never expecting an answer. Mia smiled, the expression carefully calibrated to suggest mystery without promising revelation. "From boredom, grandmother. Just from boredom." Mrs. Kim clicked her tongue but didn't press. The dinner rush had ended an hour ago. Now only 2 tables remained occupied, a young couple sharing japchae, and a businessman nursing his 3rd soju, his tie loosened, his eyes distant with whatever troubles drove people to drink alone. Mia checked her watch. 9:45. 15 minutes until closing. Then the 40-minute walk to her studio apartment, avoiding the main streets, varying her route. Then the ritual of checking door seals, window latches, the small hair she left across the threshold. Then 4 hours of sleep before her morning shift at the convenience store 3 blocks away. This was life now. Small. Contained. Safe. The black sedan arrived at 9:52. Mia noticed it before it fully stopped, the way the vehicle's trajectory suggested urgency rather than casual parking. The way the driver scanned the street before opening the rear door. The way 3 men emerged with the synchronized movement of people accustomed to operating as a unit. The businessman looked up from his soju. The young couple paused their conversation. Mrs. Kim's hand tightened on her dish rag, but Mia's hands remained steady on the counter. She'd seen men like this before. In another life. In the life she'd buried so deep, she sometimes convinced herself it belonged to someone else. The man in the center couldn't have been more than 33, 34 at most, but he moved with an authority that suggested he'd earned his position through more than birthright. Sharp features, dark eyes that missed nothing, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Mia earned in 6 months. His left shoulder showed a spreading darkness where blood soaked through expensive fabric. The 2 men flanking him were older, harder, their eyes cataloging threats with professional efficiency. They entered the Golden Bowl like they owned it, which in some cosmic sense, they probably did. Everyone in Seoul knew the name Kang-Dae, even if they pretended not to. The youngest crime boss in the city's history, who'd taken over his father's organization at 25 and transformed it from street-level operations into a sophisticated enterprise that straddled both sides of the law. Mia had spent 3 years avoiding exactly this kind of attention. "We're closing," she said in Korean, keeping her voice level, her posture submissive. The waitress. The nobody. The background character in someone else's story. "You're open," Kang-Dae replied, moving toward the corner booth with the best view of the entrance. His voice was younger than she'd expected, carrying an edge of pain he was working to suppress. His bodyguards followed, one taking position near the door, the other scanning the kitchen entrance where Mrs. Kim had frozen, her face pale. Mia met the old woman's eyes and gave a tiny shake of her head. "Don't interfere. Don't become memorable. Let this pass like weather." "Tea," Kang-Dae said, settling into the booth with a barely suppressed wince. The shoulder wound wasn't fatal, but it needed attention. His eyes found Mia's, held them for a moment longer than necessary, and closed the blinds. There was something in his gaze that made her pulse quicken. Not threat, exactly. Recognition, maybe. Like he was seeing something in her that most people missed. The businessman threw cash on his table and hurried out. The young couple followed seconds later, abandoning their half-eaten noodles. Smart. Survival instinct recognizing danger even when it wore an expensive suit and a face too young to carry such weight. Mia moved to close the blinds, her mind racing through scenarios. This was a man hiding, which meant hunters were coming. This was temporary shelter, which meant violence had already occurred and more was likely. This was exactly the kind of situation she'd spent a decade avoiding. "You're trembling," Kang-Dae observed as she approached with the tea tray. Mia let her hands shake as she set down the cups. The terrified waitress. The civilian caught in circumstances beyond her control. "You're bleeding in my restaurant," she said softly. "That tends to make people nervous." His laugh was sharp, genuine, and it transformed his face completely. For just a moment, he didn't look like a crime lord. He looked like someone her age who'd taken a wrong turn somewhere and ended up carrying burdens too heavy for one person. "Your restaurant? I thought Kim Young-suk owned this place." "She does. I just work here." Mia backed toward the counter, maintaining the performance. "Should I call an ambulance?" "No." The word carried absolute authority, but his eyes softened slightly when he looked at her. "You should forget we were here." One of the bodyguards moved to the window, peering through a gap in the blinds. "2 vehicles approaching, sir. Black SUVs. Not ours." Kang-Dae's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Resignation. Calculation. "How many?" "Can't tell yet. At least 6. Maybe more." Mrs. Kim made a small sound of fear from the kitchen doorway. Mia wanted to tell her to hide, to run, to do anything except stand there looking like a potential witness. But speaking would break character, would suggest involvement rather than victimhood. "They found us faster than expected," Kang-Dae said, almost to himself. He looked at Mia with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Concern? Regret? You should leave through the back. Now, both of you. This isn't your fight." Mia's training screamed at her to do exactly that. Exit. Evade. Survive. Let powerful men sort out their own problems with bullets and blood. She'd walked away from this world. She'd earned her quiet life through sacrifice and loss and 10 years of looking over her shoulder. But Mrs. Kim wasn't moving. The old woman stood frozen, and Mia knew with absolute certainty that she wouldn't run. Wouldn't abandon her life's work. Would stay and probably die if Mia left her. The SUVs stopped outside. "Go," Kang-Dae said again, his hand moving inside his jacket. For just a moment, their eyes met across the small restaurant, and Mia saw something there that made her chest tighten. He was trying to protect them. A stranger and an old woman he'd never met. Even bleeding, even hunted, he was thinking about their safety. Doors opened in the street. Footsteps. Mia's mind calculated trajectories, angles, odds. 5 assassins entering through 2 points. 3 bodyguards, 1 wounded principal. Civilian in the kitchen. 18 feet from her position to the nearest cover. 22 feet to the kitchen where Mrs. Kim stood paralyzed. The front door crashed open. 3 men entered with weapons already drawn, movements coordinated, professional. Not street thugs. Trained operators. The kind who didn't miss, didn't hesitate, didn't leave witnesses. Kang-Dae's bodyguard near the entrance reached for his weapon. Too slow. The first assassin shot him twice, center mass, the suppressed pistol making sounds like someone cracking knuckles. The bodyguard dropped. Mrs. Kim screamed. The second bodyguard dove for cover behind a table, returning fire. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. The young man's shots went wide, panic overriding training. Two more assassins emerged from the kitchen, flanking positions, crossfire angles. They'd studied the layout. This wasn't improvisation. Mia watched it all unfold in the stretched seconds before violence becomes inevitable. She saw the assassin nearest the counter begin to turn toward Mrs. Kim. Saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw the old woman who'd given her safety and kindness and never asked for anything in return about to die. And she saw Kang-Dae, trying to shield himself with the booth, blood spreading across his shoulder, his young face set with the grim acceptance of someone who'd always known it might end like this. 10 years of hiding ended in a heartbeat. Mia's hand closed around the coffee pot on the burner behind her. Still hot. Still full. She moved before thought could intervene, before the part of her brain that screamed about satellites and consequences could stop her. The assassin's head turned toward the movement. His weapon swung to track her. She threw the scalding coffee in his face. His scream was genuine, primal. The gun wavered. Mia closed the distance between them in 3 running steps and swung the heavy pot like a hammer. It connected with his jaw with a sound like a branch snapping. Bone gave way. He went down hard, his weapon skittering across the floor. 1 second gone. Mia scooped up the pistol, her hands remembering the weight, the balance, the way machines designed for killing became extensions of will. The second assassin fired at Kang-Dae. She grabbed a steel serving tray from the counter and sent it spinning through the air. The bullet meant for his head punched through metal instead, the tray clanging to the floor with a hole punched clean through its center. Kang-Dae's eyes widened as he watched her move. Not with fear, with something else entirely. The assassin's eyes showed professional surprise. He recalculated, shifted his aim toward this new threat. Mia vaulted the counter, using the tray as a shield. 2 rounds punched into it, the impacts reverberating through her arm. She closed the distance, got inside his firing arc. Her elbow drove into his solar plexus with all her momentum behind it. Air exploded from his lungs. She stripped the weapon from his hands with a joint lock that would leave him unable to grip anything for weeks. A sweep kick put him on the floor. 8 seconds gone. The kitchen assassins opened fire. Mia rolled behind the counter as bullets tore through the space where she'd stood. Mrs. Kim was down, hands over her head, sobbing. Alive. That was what mattered. Kang-Dae's surviving bodyguard traded shots with the front door assassin. Neither had clear advantage. A stalemate that would end the moment someone's ammunition ran out or courage failed. The kitchen assassins advanced, professional and patient. They had her pinned. Tom was on their side. They could wait for her to run out of options, flush her out, finish this. Mia's hand fell on the table, setting nearest her position. Plates, cups, utensils. The butter knife gleamed in the fluorescent light. 16 seconds gone. She remembered her instructor's voice from another lifetime. The weapon is not the object. The weapon is you. Everything else is just leverage. The first kitchen assassin came around the counter low, weapon extended, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd cleared hostile buildings in a dozen countries. His eyes found her. Mia was already moving. She came up from her crouch with the butter knife in a reverse grip, batting aside his weapon arm as he fired. The bullet went wide, punching into the wall behind her. She drove the dull blade into the cluster of nerves in his wrist, applying pressure with surgical precision. Not cutting, disrupting. His hand spasmed open involuntarily, the tactical knife he'd drawn with his offhand clattering to the floor. She swept his legs. He went down hard. 22 seconds gone. The second kitchen assassin and the front door assassin both had shots now. Both fired simultaneously. Mia grabbed the fallen man, yanked him up as a human shield. His body jerked as his own teammate's bullet found him. The front door assassin's shot went wide, his angle blocked by furniture. Mia snatched the tactical knife from the floor and threw it in one fluid motion. The blade tumbled through the air, rotating twice before the tip buried itself in the front door assassin's shoulder. Not fatal. She didn't do fatal anymore, but enough to take him out of the fight, his weapon dropping from nerveless fingers. The final kitchen assassin charged, abandoning tactics for desperation. Kang-Dae's bodyguard rose from cover, weapon aimed. Mia dove for the dropped pistol near the entrance, rolled, came up with the weapon in a two-handed grip. "Don't move," she said. Her voice was calm, professional, the voice of someone who'd given this order 100 times and meant it every time. The final assassin froze, reading something in her eyes that made him choose survival over contract completion. He raised his hand slowly. 28 seconds total. The Golden Bowl noodle shop looked like a war zone. 5 trained killers on the floor, groaning, bleeding, but alive. Mrs. Kim sobbing in the kitchen. Kang-Dae staring at Mia with an expression that mixed wonder and something deeper, something that made her skin flush despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, and the question sounded less like suspicion and more like genuine curiosity. Like he'd just witnessed something beautiful and terrible and couldn't look away. Mia stood among the wreckage of her careful life, the pistol still in her hands, her body still thrumming with the familiar electricity of combat. She looked at the security camera in the corner, the one that fed to the cloud storage Mrs. Kim had insisted on installing last year. The camera that had captured everything. The camera that would upload to servers that intelligence agencies routinely scraped for facial recognition. After 10 years of being invisible, she'd just put on a performance that would flag every algorithm designed to find people like her. "I'm nobody," she said, but the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. Kang-Dae laughed, the sound edged with pain and genuine amusement, and something that sounded almost like admiration. Nobody who just neutralized 5 professional hitters with a coffee pot and a butter knife. Nobody who moves like she was born for this. He pressed his hand against his wounded shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers, but his eyes never left her face. "I've seen a lot of violence in my life. A lot of trained people. You're not just trained. You're extraordinary." The way he said that last word made something flutter in Mia's chest. She pushed it down, focused on the immediate crisis. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not close yet, but coming. Someone had heard the suppressed gunfire or seen the SUVs or simply noticed something wrong in the late-night quiet. Mia moved to Mrs. Kim, helping the old woman to her feet. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" Mrs. Kim shook her head, her hands gripping Mia's arms with surprising strength. "You? How did you? What are you?" "I'm sorry," Mia whispered. "I'm so sorry. I tried to keep this away from you. I tried to keep everything away." The front door opened again. Mia spun, weapon rising, but the newcomers wore suits, not tactical gear. Kang-Dae's people. Cleanup crew. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking the downed assassins, securing weapons, already pulling out phones to make calls that would ensure police cooperation. One of them, an older man with silver hair and a scar across his cheek, approached Kang-Dae. "Sir, we need to move you. The safe house is compromised, but we have alternates ready. Handle the scene," Kang-Dae said, his eyes never leaving Mia. "Pay the owner for damages and inconvenience. Generous compensation. And make sure she forgets everything she saw tonight." "Of course, sir." "And her." The silver-haired man gestured to Mia. "She comes with me." Mia lowered the weapon. "No, I'm not going anywhere with you. This ends here. You're alive. That's enough." Kang-Dae stood slowly, pain evident in every movement. But there was something in his expression that made her breath catch. Not just authority. Something softer. Concern. "You don't understand the situation," he said, taking a step closer. "Those men came here to kill me. They found me through intelligence I thought was secure, which means there's a leak in my organization. A betrayal. Someone close to me set this up." He gestured to the downed assassins, then looked back at her. "These aren't street muscle. They're professionals. Expensive. Which means whoever hired them has resources and motivation and won't stop just because you ruined their first attempt. They'll want to know who you are. They'll come looking. That's your problem," Mia said, trying to ignore how close he was standing, how his presence seemed to fill the space between them. "Not mine. It became your problem the moment you interfered. They'll review what happened here. They'll see the footage." His voice dropped, became almost gentle. "Your face will be everywhere. My enemies will come looking for you. And I don't think." He paused, something flickering across his features. "I don't want to see you hurt because you saved my life." The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. Mia felt the trap closing, but it wasn't just the tactical situation anymore. It was the way Kang-Dae was looking at her, like she was a puzzle he desperately wanted to solve, like she mattered in a way that went beyond gratitude. Mrs. Kim touched Mia's arm, her voice trembling. "Child, if you're in danger, you should go with him. He can protect you. I'll be fine. They'll take care of me, won't you?" She looked at Kang-Dae with the desperate hope of someone grasping for any certainty in chaos. "Your shop will be restored better than before," Kang-Dae assured her, but his attention remained focused on Mia. "You'll receive compensation that will let you retire comfortably if you choose. And you'll forget everything that happened here tonight. For your own safety." The old woman nodded quickly, understanding the unspoken threat wrapped in kindness. The silver-haired man stepped closer to Kang-Dae. "Sir, we really need to move. The police will be here in minutes, paid off or not." Too many eyes. Kang-Dae nodded but kept his focus on Mia. "You have a choice. Come with me now. Let me protect you while we figure out who betrayed me and why. Or stay here and handle whatever comes next on your own." He took another step closer, close enough that she could see the pain in his eyes, the determination, and something else that made her heart race. "But understand that whatever you're running from, whatever made you hide your skills and work in a noodle shop for 3 years, those people are about to find you too. And he paused, seemed to struggle with the words. "I would rather you were somewhere I could keep you safe." The personal pronoun struck her. "Not we. Not my organization. I." Mia's blood went cold at his implication about her past, but warmed at something in his tone. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the way you move. The way you cleared this room with improvised weapons like you were following muscle memory, burned in through years of training. I've worked with enough special operations people to recognize the signs. Your former military, maybe intelligence, maybe something even darker." His voice softened. "And someone trained you so well that violence is still your first language even after years of whatever exile you've been living." He was too close to the truth. Dangerously close. But standing this near to him, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes mixed with something that looked almost like longing, made it hard to maintain her walls. "Whoever you ran from," Kang-Dae continued, his voice dropping lower, more intimate. "They have the same surveillance technology one do. Better, probably. That camera caught everything. Within hours, facial recognition software will ping. Your face will land on desks in Langley or Moscow or Beijing or wherever you originally came from. And then you'll have 2 groups of people hunting you instead of one." He reached out slowly, carefully, like approaching something wild and precious, and touched her arm. The contact sent electricity through her skin. "Please, let me help you. You saved my life. Let me return the favor." Mia looked at Mrs. Kim, at the woman who'd given her safety without questions, who'd treated her like family. Staying meant bringing more violence to her doorstep. Leaving meant Mrs. Kim might be pressured for information about the mysterious waitress who fought like a special forces operative. Either way, the quiet life was over. And standing this close to Kang-Dae, feeling the heat of him despite his injury, seeing the way he looked at her like she was something more than an asset or a problem to solve, made the decision somehow both harder and easier. "If I come with you," Mia said slowly, her voice steadier than she felt. "It's temporary. 1 week. I help you find your traitor, and then you give me resources to disappear properly. New identity, new country, a real clean break." Something that looked like disappointment flashed across Kang-Dae's face before he masked it. "You think you can find my traitor in a week? I think I can find anyone in 3 days if I'm motivated. You want to know who sold you out? I'll get you a name, proof, and probably their current location. But then we're done. No obligations. No loyalty. I walk away and you forget I existed. I don't think I could forget you if I tried," he said quietly, and the honesty in his voice made her breath catch. Then, louder, more businesslike, "Deal. 3 days to find the traitor. But I need one more thing." "What?" "Your real name. If we're working together, if I'm trusting you with my life, I need to know what to call you." Mia hesitated. Names had power. Names created connections. But looking into his eyes, seeing the genuine curiosity there mixed with something warmer, she found herself answering. "Mia. Just Mia." "Mia," he repeated, and the way he said it made it sound like something precious. "I'm Kang-Dae, though I suppose you already knew that." "Everyone knows that," she said, allowing the ghost of a smile. "But not everyone just saved my life with kitchen implements." His smile was real, transforming his face again, making him look younger, less burdened. You're full of surprises, Mia. You have no idea. They left through the back, Mia sparing one last glance at Mrs. Kim. The old woman was already being attended to by two of Kang-Dae's people, one draping a blanket over her shoulders, another speaking in soothing tones. Professional. Practiced. This wasn't the first time they'd managed civilian witnesses. The back alley was dark, wet with recent rain. Two more SUVs idled with running lights off. Kang-Dae was guided toward the first vehicle, but he paused, turning back to Mia. "Ride with me," he said. "Not an order. A request." The silver-haired man looked like he wanted to object on security grounds, but something in Kang-Dae's expression silenced him. Mia found herself in the back of the SUV, sitting across from Kang-Dae while his people worked on his shoulder wound. A medic had appeared from somewhere, cutting away the ruined suit jacket, cleaning the injury with efficient movements. "Bullet went through," the medic reported. "You'll need proper treatment, but you're not in immediate danger." "I know," Kang-Dae said, his jaw tight with pain he was working to suppress. But his eyes found Mia's in the dim interior. "You saved my life twice in the same moment." The tray deflected the shot, changed the trajectory just enough. "I noticed the angle," Mia said quietly, watching the city slide past the tinted windows. "He was aiming for your head. The tray bought you inches. Inches that kept me alive." He was quiet for a moment while the medic wrapped temporary bandaging. "Why did you do it? You didn't know me. You'd spent 3 years staying invisible. Why risk everything for a stranger?" Mia thought about the question, about all the answers she could give. The truth came out simpler than she expected. Because Mrs. Kim was going to die if I didn't. And because... She met his eyes. "Because letting you die when I could prevent it would have made me something I don't want to be anymore." "What were you before?" "Someone who followed orders instead of conscience." It didn't end well. Understanding flickered in Kang-Dae's expression. "And now you're someone who saves people with coffee pots and butter knives." Quite the career change. Despite everything, Mia found herself almost smiling. "The pay is better as a waitress. More consistent anyway. I could offer you better than waitress wages. I'm not a bodyguard for hire. I wasn't offering you a job as a bodyguard." His voice carried something she couldn't quite identify. "I was thinking more along the lines of partner. Equal standing. Someone I can trust when everyone else might be compromised. You don't know me well enough to trust me. I know you saved my life when you could have walked away. I know you have skills you've been hiding, which means you have reasons to hide. I know you could have killed those men, but you didn't, which tells me something about your code." He leaned forward slightly, wincing at the movement. "And I know that in 30 seconds of watching you work, I saw someone extraordinary trying very hard to be ordinary. That kind of restraint takes strength most people don't have." The compliment landed somewhere deep in Mia's chest, warming places that had been cold for years. She looked away, uncomfortable with the intensity of his gaze. "Don't do that," Kang-Dae said softly. "Do what?" "Deflect. Retreat. You faced 5 armed men without hesitation, but a few honest words make you run for cover. I'm not running. Aren't you? You've been running for 10 years by your own admission. Maybe it's time to stop." Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. If you're invested in Mia's story and want to see where this connection with Kang-Dae leads, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to create more content like this every single day. Drop a comment and let me know what you think will happen next. Now, let's get back to the story. The drive took 40 minutes through streets that grew progressively more upscale. They passed through security checkpoints, into a neighborhood where buildings wore their wealth quietly, where walls were high and windows were tinted and cameras tracked every approach. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a building that overlooked the Han River. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city spreading out in all directions, a carpet of lights that made Seoul look almost peaceful. Inside, the decor was minimalist, expensive, controlled. But there were personal touches that surprised Mia. Books in multiple languages. A guitar propped in one corner. Photographs on a shelf showing Kang-Dae with what looked like family. His smile genuine and unguarded in ways she hadn't seen yet. A doctor was already waiting, an older woman with steady hands who immediately began treating Kang-Dae's shoulder wound without being asked. He endured her ministrations with quiet patience, only wincing when she dug deeper to ensure no fragments remained. "Clean through," the doctor said. "You were lucky. Another inch to the right, and it would have nicked the subclavian artery. You'd have bled out in minutes. Luck had nothing to do with it, Kang-Dae said, his eyes finding Mia across the room. She threw off the shooter's aim. Saved my life twice in the same moment. Mia had positioned herself near a window, cataloging exits, checking sight lines, falling into old patterns. But she was also acutely aware of every time Kang-Dae looked at her, every time his attention shifted in her direction. The silver-haired man stood nearby, watching her with the wary respect of a professional recognizing another. I'm Detective Yoon, he said quietly, head of security for the organization. Former National Intelligence Service before I took private sector work. I ran facial recognition on you as soon as we left the shop. Mia's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. Find anything interesting? Nothing. Which is more interesting than finding something. Your face doesn't exist in any database I can access. No social media presence, no government records beyond a work visa that's probably forged, no digital footprint at all. People don't just appear from nowhere. Especially not people with your skill set. Maybe I'm just good at staying private. Maybe. Or maybe someone scrubbed you from the databases. Someone with access and authority. Someone who wanted you erased. Detective Yoon leaned against the window frame. I've been doing this work for 30 years. I've seen sleeper agents, deep cover operatives, witness protection refugees. You have the markers of all three and none of them. So I'm going to ask you directly. Are you a threat to Kang-Dae? Mia met his eyes. If I wanted him dead, he'd be dead. I had weapons, position, and opportunity back at that shop. Instead, I saved his life. That should tell you everything you need to know. It tells me you had reasons to keep him alive. Doesn't tell me those reasons will last. Fair enough. Then trust this. I don't want to be here. I don't want involvement in whatever power struggle is tearing his organization apart. I want to complete our arrangement and disappear. The fastest way to do that is to keep him alive long enough to find his traitor. After that, I'm gone and you'll never see me again. Something shifted in Detective Yoon's expression. He doesn't want you to go. Excuse me. I've worked for Kang-Dae for 8 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're a puzzle he needs to solve, but also something precious he's afraid of breaking. Detective Yoon's voice was quiet, almost sympathetic. Just be careful with that. He's been alone for a long time. Surrounded by people, but fundamentally isolated. Someone who sees through his walls, who treats him like a person instead of a position. That's dangerous territory. I'm not here to break anyone's heart. I'm here to do a job and leave. I know. That's what makes it dangerous. The doctor finished with Kang-Dae's shoulder, wrapping it in clean bandages. Rest. No strenuous activity for at least a week. I'll return tomorrow to check the wound. She left without waiting for acknowledgement, comfortable in her role, secure in her position. Kang-Dae stood carefully, testing his range of motion. His eyes immediately found Mia's. Detective Yoon, gather the inner circle. I want everyone who knew about my movements tonight assembled here within 2 hours. Tell them we're having an emergency meeting about tonight's attack. Sir, is that wise? If one of them is the traitor, then I want them here where I can watch them. Where she can watch them. He gestured to Mia. Use whatever instincts kept you alive in your previous life. Watch how they react. Listen to what they say and don't say. Find me the snake in my garden. Mia nodded slowly, already running scenarios in her mind. I'll need information on each person before they arrive. Files, backgrounds, anything you have. I need to know who they are before I can figure out who they're pretending to be. Detective Yoon pulled out a tablet. I'll have everything compiled within the hour. Good. Mia turned to Kang-Dae. You should rest while we have time. You've lost blood, you're in pain. And if this meeting goes badly, you'll need your strength. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on adrenaline and pride. She moved closer to him, close enough to see the tightness around his eyes that betrayed his pain. Sit down before you fall down. For a moment, he looked like he might argue. Then something in her expression made him relent. He settled onto the couch with a carefully controlled movement that still made him wince. Bossy, he observed, but there was warmth in his voice. Practical. There's a difference. Is there? He was watching her with that intense focus again, like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. You saved my life. Now you're ordering me around in my own home. At this rate, you'll be running my organization by tomorrow. I don't want to run your organization. What do you want, Mia? The question hung between them, weighted with more than just the words. What did she want? Safety, obviously. Freedom from her past. But standing here in his penthouse, feeling the pull of his attention, she found herself wondering if maybe, just maybe, she wanted something more than survival. Right now, she said carefully, I want to find who tried to kill you and make sure they don't get a second chance. Everything else can wait. Everything. She met his eyes. Everything. Disappointment flickered across his features again, but he nodded. Then let's get to work. Detective Yoon will provide the files. I'll brief you on organizational dynamics. And Mia? He waited until she looked at him fully. Thank you. For saving my life. For staying. For not running when you could have. Don't thank me yet. We don't know how this ends. No, he agreed, his voice soft. But at least we'll face it together. The next hour passed in a blur of information. Detective Yoon's files were comprehensive, detailed, the kind of intelligence that spoke to years of careful observation and documentation. 5 lieutenants formed the inner circle, and as Mia studied each file, she was acutely aware of Kang-Dae sitting beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, close enough that every time he leaned over to point something out, his shoulder brushed against hers. Jinwoo, Kang-Dae's nephew, 31 years old, ambitious. He wants my position, Kang-Dae said quietly. Has since he was old enough to understand what it meant. Second-generation syndicate, educated abroad, fluent in 3 languages. Smart, capable, but hungry in ways that make him dangerous. Would he kill you for it? A year ago, I would have said no. Now, Kang-Dae's expression was troubled. I don't know anymore. Seo Yun, 45 years old, ice-cold, controlled import-export operations. She's brilliant, Kang-Dae said with clear respect. Former prosecutor who saw more profit on the other side of the law. Loyal to money above all else, which makes her predictable. If someone offered her enough, she might consider betrayal. Park Min-ho, 58 years old, old guard. He served my father. Helped build everything we have. Traditional values, uncomfortable with change. Kang-Dae's voice carried genuine affection. He's like an uncle to me. If he's the traitor, it would break something fundamental. Lee Taeyong, 36 years old, the enforcer. Former military. Court-martialed for excessive force. Loyal as they come, but loyalty can be redirected if someone finds the right pressure point. Han Ji-hoon, 40 years old, the accountant. He sees the world in numbers. Quiet, methodical, precise. Controls all our financial architecture, which means he knows exactly where every one flows. Mia studied each file, memorizing faces, building psychological profiles. She was aware of Kang-Dae watching her work, his attention almost tactile. You're good at this, he observed. I've done it before. Different context, same principles. What context? She looked at him, at his genuine curiosity mixed with something warmer. The kind where getting it wrong meant people died. Where reading someone incorrectly could compromise an entire operation. Military intelligence. Something like that. And you walked away from it. I was forced out. There's a difference. His hand moved, almost unconsciously, until his fingers were barely touching hers on the tablet. Whatever happened, whatever made them force you out. I'm glad they did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been in that noodle shop tonight. Wouldn't have saved my life. Mia's breath caught. You're glad you got shot? I'm glad I met you. The honesty in his voice was devastating. Even if the circumstances were less than ideal. She should pull away. Should maintain professional distance. Should remember that this was temporary, that she was leaving in 3 days, that getting close to anyone was dangerous for both of them. But she didn't move her hand. They're arriving, Detective Yoon announced, breaking the moment. Mia pulled her hand back, ignoring the flash of regret in Kang-Dae's eyes. I've had them come through separate entrances, staggered timing. They don't know the others have been summoned. Kang-Dae stood, transforming back into the crime lord even as pain tightened his features. Let's find out who wants me dead. Mia positioned herself in the corner of the conference room, far enough back to observe everyone, close enough to intervene if needed. She'd changed clothes, borrowing dark pants and a fitted jacket from somewhere in the penthouse. The clothes fit well enough to be functional, and she'd noticed Kang-Dae's eyes linger on her when she'd emerged. Jinwoo arrived first, his expensive suit perfectly tailored, moving with the confidence of someone who expected to inherit an empire. He stopped when he saw Kang-Dae's bandaged shoulder. Uncle, what happened? The concern sounded genuine, but Mia watched his eyes, the way they calculated even as his mouth shaped worry. I heard there was an incident, but no details. Sit, Kang-Dae said, gesturing to the table. Wait for the others. Jin-Woo's eyes found Mia in the corner. His gaze traveled over her with an assessment that made her skin crawl. Not sexual exactly. More like he was trying to price her worth. Who's she? Security consultant. Someone I trust. Since when do we hire consultants we can trust in less than? Jin-Woo checked his watch. 3 hours. Since 5 professionals tried to kill me, and she stopped them. Kang-Dae's voice carried an edge. Any other questions, nephew? Jin-Woo's expression flickered through several emotions before settling on studied neutrality. He sat without another word, but his eyes kept returning to Mia with undisguised curiosity. Seo-yoon arrived next, her business suit sharp, her heels announcing her presence. She assessed the room in one sweep. Kang-Dae's injury, Jin-Woo's presence, Mia's corner position, and sat without being invited. Are we at war? She asked simply. We're about to find out, Kang-Dae replied. Park Min-ho entered moving like a man who'd survived too many dangerous situations to rush anywhere. His weathered face showed genuine alarm when he saw Kang-Dae's shoulder. Who did this? Professionals. 5 of them. They knew exactly where to find me. Park Min-ho's hand instinctively moved toward where a weapon would be. Give me names. I'll handle it personally. The hitters are handled. What I need is to understand how they found me. Lee Taeyong arrived with controlled aggression radiating from him. His eyes swept the room with tactical precision, pausing on Mia. Recognition sparked, not of her specifically, but of what she represented. He gave her a small nod that was almost respectful. You called an emergency meeting, he said to Kang-Dae. What do you need? Answers. Loyalty. Truth. Han Ji-hoon entered last, wireframe glasses and slight build making him look academic rather than criminal. He carried his leather portfolio, always prepared. I've prepared financial analysis if needed. When Detective Yoon called, I assumed. We're dealing with betrayal. Kang-Dae cut him off. The temperature in the room dropped. Faces showed shock, anger, calculation. Mia watched them all, cataloging micro-expressions, body language, the tiny tells that separated genuine surprise from performed reaction. Jin-Woo leaned forward. Uncle, that's a serious accusation. What evidence? The evidence is my shoulder. The evidence is 5 professional assassins who knew my location and timing. Only people in this room had that information. Could be surveillance, Seo-yoon offered coolly. Electronic tracking. We're not the only ones with resources. We sweep for bugs daily, Detective Yoon interjected. This was inside information. Park Min-ho's face had gone red. You think one of us betrayed you? After everything. I think someone made a choice. Maybe under pressure. Maybe for profit. Maybe because they thought it was best for the organization. Kang-Dae's voice remained level, but Mia could see the cost of this suspicion in his eyes. I'm not assuming malice, but someone here knows something. Lee Taeyong stood abruptly. This is insulting. I've bled for you. And now you question my loyalty. Sit down. Kang-Dae's authority filled the room. I'm questioning everyone. No exceptions. Mia watched the dynamics, the alliances revealing themselves. Jin-Woo and Seo-yoon exchanged a glance. Working relationship or something more? Park Min-ho isolated himself, old guard standing alone. Lee Taeyong radiated barely controlled anger. Han Ji-hoon remained neutral, observing, calculating. Let's approach this logically, Han Ji-hoon said, pulling out his tablet. Who benefits from Kang-Dae's death? Everyone benefits in different ways, Seo-yoon said bluntly. Jin-Woo becomes head. I renegotiate my terms. Park retires comfortably. Lee gets new leadership. You, Han, control the transition accounts. She just indicted everyone while appearing helpful. What about external pressure? Mia spoke for the first time. All eyes turned to her. Kang-Dae's held warmth despite the circumstances. Jin-Woo's narrowed with calculation. The others showed various degrees of curiosity and wariness. Betrayal isn't always about ambition, Mia continued. Sometimes it's about fear. Threats to family, financial pressure, blackmail. Did anyone here face unusual stress recently? Park Min-ho shifted in his seat. Small tell, but there. Mia focused on him. Mr. Park, he was silent for a long moment. My grandson, gambling debts. I paid them off quietly. Didn't want to trouble Kang-Dae with family matters. How much? Detective Yoon asked sharply. 200 million won. And the creditors knew who you were. Mia pressed. Park Min-ho's silence was confirmation. They knew, Mia continued. Which means leverage. Your grandson, does he have access to your office? Your computer? The old man's face paled. He stays with me sometimes. Uses my office when I'm out. Detective Yoon was already checking. Unusual network activity 3 days ago. Someone accessed secure servers from Park's terminal. Pulled schedule information, routing details. Park Min-ho looked stricken. My grandson swore he only played games. He lied or was used, Mia said. Either way, that's your leak. But that's just access. Who paid for the hit? The Busan creditors are small time, So Yoon observed. They don't have resources for professional assassins. Which means someone bigger is using them, Mia agreed. Detective Yoon, I need financial records. Who's been moving unusual money through Busan? Over the next hour, they worked the problem. Han Ji-hoon's financial analysis revealed shell companies, foreign accounts, money flows that pointed to something bigger than criminal rivalry. American-backed, Han Ji-hoon finally said. A private military contractor called Sentinel Global Solutions. Based in Virginia. Mia's blood went cold. Virginia, where Langley sat, where her past lived. Kang-Dae noticed her reaction immediately. Mia, she forced her voice steady. Why would American contractors target you? That's what doesn't make sense, Han Ji-hoon said. Sentinel has no competing business interests. Unless. He pulled up more files. Unless they want regime change. Replace Kang-Dae with someone more cooperative. All eyes turned to Jin-woo. The young man's composure cracked. You think I'm working with Americans? Are you? Kang-Dae's voice was dangerously quiet. I've been to America recently. Business development. You approved it. I approved business trips. Not meetings with intelligence contractors. Jin-woo stood abruptly. This is insane. Uncle, I would never. Sit down. Kang-Dae's authority was absolute. We're going to your club. Tonight. And you're going to tell me everything about your American friends. Because if I find out you orchestrated this. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The eclipse throbbed with music and wealth when they arrived just after midnight. Jin-woo's flagship property, where Seoul's elite came to be seen and separate themselves from money. Jin-woo held court in the VIP section, but his performance crumbled when Kang-Dae, Mia, Detective Yoon, and Lee Taeyong surrounded him. We found the money trail, Kang-Dae said without preamble. Found Sentinel. Found everything. Jin-woo's mask finally shattered. Anger bled through. You're dying anyway. Cancer. 5 years maximum. You think I don't know about your medical trips to Japan? Mia felt the revelation like a physical blow. She looked at Kang-Dae, saw the truth in his eyes. He was dying. This young, vital man who looked at her like she mattered was carrying a death sentence. So you decided to accelerate the timeline, Kang-Dae said quietly. I decided to prevent chaos. Jin-woo stood. The Americans offered stability. They want intelligence on Chinese and Russian operations. They'll leave us alone if we cooperate. It's good business, uncle. You made deals without consulting me. Sold our sovereignty. I saved our organization. You're stuck in old ways while the world moves on. But then that video surfaced. His eyes found Mia, the waitress who fights like special forces. The Americans went crazy. Started running facial recognition. They think she's someone named Echo. Some ghost from a terminated program. They want her as much as they wanted you out of power. The room went silent. Mia felt every eye turned to her. Echo. Detective Yoon repeated quietly. Shadow program operative. Disappeared 10 years ago after refusing termination orders. Kang-Dae looked at Mia, and she saw understanding dawn in his eyes. Not judgment. Not fear. Just comprehension of why she'd been running. Why she'd hidden. Why she'd been willing to throw away 10 years of safety to save strangers in a noodle shop. You didn't just save my life by accident, he said softly. You exposed yourself. For me. For Mrs. Kim. I made a choice, Mia said. Same choice I made 10 years ago. Refusing to let innocent people die. And now they know you're alive. They're already coming. Team landed 3 hours ago. Jin-woo laughed bitterly. So we're all compromised. Uncle, you can still fix this. Give them Echo. Transition leadership to me. Everyone survives. Lee Taeyong's hand was at Jin-woo's throat before anyone could blink. You really think we'd give up one of our own? She's not one of us, Jin-woo choked. She's been here less than a day. Kang-Dae's voice cut through the tension. She saved my life. Exposed her deepest secret to protect me. That makes her more family than you've proven to be. The words hit Mia harder than any bullet. Family. He'd called her family. She stepped forward, pulling Lee Taeyong back. Let him go. We need him. Why? Lee Taeyong growled. Because he's going to help us set a trap. Jinwoo, you have contact protocols with your handlers. Tell them you have echo. Tell them you're willing to make an exchange. Understanding dawned in multiple faces. You want to end this, Kang-Dae said, watching her with an expression that mixed admiration and fear. All of it. I want to stop running. Stop hiding. One meeting, everything on the table. She met his eyes. I'm done being hunted. This ends tomorrow. They'll never fall for it, Jinwoo said. They will. Because they're arrogant. They think they control the board. Mia's voice was cold, tactical. Make them believe they've won. They spent hours preparing. The old Incheon shipyard was chosen. Territory they controlled, multiple exits, defendable positions. Lee Taeyong positioned shooters. Detective Yoon set up surveillance and jammers. Han Ji-hoon prepared financial leverage, evidence of Sentinel's illegal operations. But through it all, Mia was acutely aware of Kang-Dae. The way he watched her plan. The way he insisted on being present despite his injury. The way he looked at her like he was trying to memorize every detail. Late in the preparation, he found her alone, checking weapons in a side room. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, I do. Let me handle it. My organization, my resources. You could disappear tonight. New identity, new country. Everything you wanted. She turned to face him. Is that what you want? For me to disappear? He was quiet for a long moment. No. God help me, no. I want you to stay. I want. He stepped closer. I've been alone for a long time, Mia. Surrounded by people, but fundamentally isolated. And then you appeared, and for the first time in years, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not the position. Not the power. Just me. Her breath caught. Kang-Dae, I know it's impossible. I know you're leaving. I know I'm dying and you're running, and we have maybe 3 days before everything falls apart. He reached up, carefully, and touched her face. But I needed you to know. Before tomorrow. Before whatever happens. I needed you to know that meeting you, even like this, even for such a brief time, it mattered. Mia's heart was racing. Every instinct screamed at her to maintain distance, to protect herself, to remember that attachment was dangerous and caring was a liability. But looking into his eyes, seeing the raw honesty there, feeling the gentle touch of his hand against her cheek, she found herself leaning into it. It mattered to me too, she whispered. He leaned closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. But Mia didn't move. Couldn't move. The world had narrowed to the space between them, to the warmth of his hand on her face, to the way he was looking at her like she was something precious and unexpected. When his lips met hers, it was gentle at first, tentative, a question more than a demand. But then Mia's hands found his shoulders, careful of his injury, and she kissed him back with 10 years of loneliness and longing she hadn't let herself acknowledge. Kang-Dae's good arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, became something desperate and fierce, like they were both trying to pour everything they couldn't say into this single moment of connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kang-Dae rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. After tomorrow. After we end this. Stay with me. You're dying, Mia said, the words hurting to speak. You have 5 years. 5 years is a long time. 5 years is longer than some people get in a lifetime. His hand cupped her face again. I've spent the last year knowing I was dying, watching everything from a distance like I was already a ghost. But you make me want to fight for every day I have left. Kang-Dae, I can't. Can't or won't. His voice was gentle, no accusation in it. Just curiosity. What are you really afraid of, Mia? That they'll find you? That I'll die? Or that you might actually want to stay? The question hit too close to truth. Mia had spent a decade convincing herself that connection was dangerous, that caring about anyone made her vulnerable, that the safest path was solitude. But standing in Kang-Dae's arms, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her palms, she couldn't remember why she'd believed that so fiercely. I'm afraid, she admitted quietly, that if I let myself want this, want you, the universe will find a way to take it away. That's what happens to people like me. We don't get happy endings. Then let's not worry about endings. Kang-Dae's thumb traced her cheekbone. Let's just focus on now. On tomorrow. On whatever time we have. I'll take one real day with you over a lifetime of careful distance. Mia closed her eyes, letting herself feel the truth of what he was offering. No promises of forever, no guarantees. Just the raw honesty of two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and decided that maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we survive tomorrow, and then we'll figure it out. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face with genuine joy. We'll survive tomorrow. I have the most dangerous woman in Seoul on my side. How could we lose? Dangerous woman who's currently wanted by the CIA. Details. He kissed her again, softer this time, sweeter. We'll handle them together. The message went out to Sentinel at 2 in the morning. Jin Woo, under careful supervision, contacted his handlers. Told them he had Echo in custody. Proposed an exchange, Mia for organizational immunity and leadership transition guarantees. The response came by dawn. They'd meet. 18 hours. The Incheon shipyard. Mia spent the day in careful preparation, but she was constantly aware of Kang-Dae's presence. The way he found reasons to be near her. The way his hand would brush hers when passing weapons or reviewing maps. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, like he was afraid she might disappear if he looked away. Detective Yoon noticed. You're playing a dangerous game, he said quietly while Kang-Dae was briefing Lee Tae-young's team. I know. He's dying. 5 years is optimistic. Could be 3. Could be less if stress accelerates it. I know that too. And you're still willing to stay? To watch him die? To build something knowing it has an expiration date? Mia looked across the room at Kang-Dae. He was animated, strategic, fully present in a way that made it easy to forget the cancer eating away at him. Maybe that's exactly why it matters. Because time is limited. Because every moment is precious. Because knowing the ending doesn't make the story less worth living. Detective Yoon was quiet for a moment. He's lucky to have found you. I'm the one who's lucky. 10 years of hiding, and I stumble into a noodle shop on the exact night someone needs saving. What are the odds? Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was fate. I don't believe in fate. Neither did I, until I saw the way he looks at you. That evening, as the sun set over Seoul and the shipyard operation drew closer, Kang-Dae found Mia on the penthouse balcony. She was checking her weapons one final time, the ritual soothing in its familiarity. Nervous? He asked, joining her at the railing. Prepared. There's a difference. You've done this before. Walked into traps knowingly. More times than I can count. But usually I was alone. Didn't have to worry about anyone else making it out. She looked at him. Now I have something to lose. He took her hand, threading their fingers together. I have good people. The best. We'll have superior position, numbers, intelligence. The Americans are walking into our territory. They're also professionals. They've survived by being careful, paranoid, thorough. They'll have contingencies we haven't thought of. Then it's good we have you. Someone who thinks like them. Mia squeezed his hand. Promise me something. Anything. If it goes wrong. If they get the upper hand. You run. You don't try to negotiate for me. Don't sacrifice the organization. Don't do anything stupid. You just run. I'm not leaving you. Kang-Dae. No. His voice was firm. You asked me what I want. I want to fight for every day I have left. And I want to spend those days with you. So no, Mia. I'm not running. We go in together. We come out together. That's the deal. She wanted to argue, to make him see reason, to protect him from the consequences of caring about her. But looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute determination there, she knew he meant every word. Together, she finally agreed. But you stay behind cover. Your shoulder isn't fully healed, and you're not at full strength. Yes, ma'am. His smile was teasing. Bossy. Practical. Is there a difference? She kissed him instead of answering, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. When they broke apart, the city lights were coming on below them, Seoul transforming into a galaxy of neon and promise. Whatever happens tomorrow, Kang-Dae said quietly, I want you to know something. The cancer diagnosis felt like a death sentence. Like I was already a ghost walking through my own life. But you made me feel alive again. Present. Like the time I have left matters. It does matter. You matter. So do you. More than you know. He pulled her closer, careful of his shoulder. I've been thinking about what comes after. If we survive this, if we shut down the CIA and handle Jin Woo and secure the organization, what about it? I want to step back. Not completely, The organization still needs leadership, but I want to live, Mia. Really live. Travel. See things beyond boardrooms and warehouses. Experience the world with someone who makes it worth experiencing. He looked at her. I want that someone to be you. Mia felt tears threatening. You're offering me a life. After I spent 10 years convinced I didn't deserve one. You deserve everything. And I know 5 years isn't long. I know it's not fair to ask you to build something with someone who's dying. But she kissed him again, silencing the apology. 5 years is enough. 5 years is more than I thought I'd have yesterday. And spending them with you. She smiled against his lips. Yeah, I want that. The shipyard at night was a maze of shadows and rusted metal. Mia moved through it like a ghost, checking positions, ensuring Lee Taeyong's shooters had clear sight lines, verifying Detective Yoon's electronic surveillance was active. Kang-Dae stayed close despite her protests, moving with surprising stealth for someone who'd been shot 36 hours ago. His presence was both comforting and terrifying. She wanted him safe, but she also wanted him near. They're here, Detective Yoon's voice crackled through the earpiece. 3 vehicles, 12 operatives visible, possible more in reserve. Understood, Mia replied. Let them approach. No one fires unless I give the signal. The warehouse door opened. They entered with professional caution, weapons ready, movements coordinated. Leading them was a man Mia recognized instantly despite the years. Reynolds, her former handler, the man who'd ordered her death. Echo, he said, and his voice carried their shared history. You look good for a dead woman. You look old for someone who should have retired. I stayed active. Looking for you became something of an obsession. His eyes swept the warehouse, cataloging positions. You've made interesting friends. Better than the ones who tried to kill me. That was business. Nothing personal. Ordering my execution felt pretty personal. Reynolds smiled without warmth. You refused a direct order. Compromised an operation. Made us all look weak. What did you expect? I expected basic humanity. I refused to murder children. That shouldn't have been controversial. In our line of work, orders are orders. Conscience is a luxury we can't afford. Then maybe we were in the wrong line of work. The philosophical debate was familiar, old ground they'd covered before. But Mia was watching more than Reynolds. She was watching his team, their positions, the way they moved. Something was off. They were too confident, too relaxed. They had backup she couldn't see. I'm here, Mia said. As promised. Let's talk terms. There are no terms. You're a loose end from a discontinued program. The only question is whether you surrender quietly. Third option. I walk away. You walk away. We both forget this happened. Can't do that. You've been active again. That video went viral. Questions lead to investigations. Investigations lead to exposure of programs that need to stay buried. Mia caught the subtle shift in Reynolds' stance. The tiny smirk. Sniper. She moved as the first shot cracked through the air, tackling Kang-Dae behind a shipping container. The round punched through metal where his head had been a heartbeat before. Lee Taeyong's team returned fire. The warehouse erupted into chaos. But Mia was already moving, using routes she'd memorized. She had one goal: reach Reynolds before he could extract. The firefight raged. Professional versus professional. Close. Brutal. Determined by small advantages and smaller mistakes. Mia flanked through a side passage, emerging behind Reynolds' position. He sensed her approach, turned with weapon raised. 10 feet of empty space. Both armed. Both trained. Both knowing how this ended. You were the best I ever trained, Reynolds said. You were a terrible teacher. Taught me to follow orders. I had to learn conscience on my own. Conscience gets you killed. So does betraying the people you trained. They fired simultaneously. Mia's shot was a fraction faster. Reynolds went down. The wound was serious, but survivable. Mia kicked his weapon away, kneeling beside him. Tell them I'm dead, she said quietly. Close the file. Or I release everything from the shadow program. Every mission. Every kill. Every illegal operation. How do you think that plays in congressional hearings? Reynolds coughed blood. You'd implicate yourself. I'm already dead. Already hunted. Already living on borrowed time. But you have a career. A pension. A legacy. She leaned closer. Choose. For a long moment, he just stared. Then, slowly he nodded. Dead. Confirmed. File closed. Good. The firefight was ending. Kang-Dae's superior positioning winning out. The Americans would retreat, file reports marking Echo deceased. Mia found Kang-Dae behind cover. Detective Yoon applying pressure to a new wound on his side. Not fatal, but serious. Is it done? Kang-Dae asked, his face pale. It's done. I'm free. Relief washed over his features. Then pain. Mia, stay still. We'll get you to the doctor. I'm fine. He winced. Maybe not fine. She took his hand, squeezed it. You're going to be fine. You promised we'd come out together. And we did. Both alive. Both free. His smile was weak, but genuine. I told you we'd survive. Jin-Woo sat against a wall nearby, hands bound, looking smaller than before. His coup had failed. His American allies had abandoned him. His future was decidedly uncertain. Kang-Dae looked at his nephew with something between anger and pity. You'll answer for this. But you're still family. That counts for something. I'm sorry, Jin-Woo said quietly. I thought I was saving us. You almost destroyed us. Kang-Dae's voice was tired. But we'll deal with that later. First, let's get out of here. The sun rose over Incheon, painting the shipyard in shades of gold and rust. Mia sat beside Kang-Dae in the back of the SUV as they pulled away from the scene, his head resting against her shoulder, his good hand clasped in hers. You scared me, she said quietly. Scared myself a little, he admitted, his voice rough with pain and exhaustion. When that sniper fired, when I saw you tackle me, I thought I was going to lose you before we even got started. Can't get rid of me that easily. Good, because I have plans for us. The doctor was waiting at the penthouse, the same woman who'd treated his shoulder. She worked with efficient precision, cleaning and stitching the wound while Kang-Dae gritted his teeth and tried not to let Mia see how much it hurt. You're lucky, the doctor said, not for the first time. The bullet grazed your ribs. Another inch, and we'd be having a very different conversation. You need to rest. Actually rest this time. No meetings, no stress, no physical activity for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Kang-Dae repeated when she left. She acts like I have nothing to do. You have one thing to do, Mia said, settling beside him on the bed. Heal. Let Detective Yoon handle the organization. Let Lee Taeyong manage security. Let the others do their jobs while you focus on getting better. Bossy, he said, but there was no heat in it. Just affection. Someone has to be. You're terrible at taking care of yourself. He pulled her closer with his good arm, careful of both their injuries. I'm better at it now. I have motivation. She curled into him, listening to his heartbeat, steady and strong despite everything. What do we do about Jin-Woo? Kang-Dae was quiet for a long moment. He betrayed me. The organization. Everything we built. Traditional response would be execution. But he's family. And he was scared. Made terrible choices because he thought he was losing me anyway and wanted to control the chaos. Kang-Dae sighed. I'm going to give him a choice. Exile with enough money to start over somewhere else. Or stay and work his way back up from the bottom. Prove his loyalty over years instead of expecting it to be granted by blood. That's merciful. You made me want to be better. To think about legacy beyond fear and power. If I'm going to die, I want to die knowing I built something that lasts. Something with honor. Mia kissed his jaw, the gesture tender. You're a good man, Kang-Dae. Better than you think. Only because you see the good in me. Over the next 2 weeks, while Kang-Dae healed, Mia learned what it meant to be part of something larger than survival. Detective Yoon taught her the organization structure, the legitimate businesses that funded everything, the careful balance between criminal enterprise and civic responsibility. Lee Taeyong trained with her, the two of them sparring in Kang-Dae's private gym, mutual respect growing into genuine friendship. Seo Yoon took her to meetings with business partners, showing her the import-export operations, the web of international connections that made the organization powerful. Kang-Dae wants you prepared, she explained. He's thinking about succession. About what happens when. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Park Min-ho brought his grandson to apologize, the young man's face bruised from whatever punishment the old man had delivered. He'll work off his debt, Park said. No special treatment. He'll earn redemption or he'll leave the family in disgrace. The organization was changing, adapting to Kang-Dae's vision of something more than criminal enterprise. Community investment. Protection that actually protected. Business that created opportunity rather than extracting it. And through it all, Mia and Kang-Dae grew closer. Quiet evenings on the balcony, talking about everything and nothing. Mornings waking up tangled together, his smile the first thing she saw. Afternoons planning not just organizational strategy, but actual travel, places they'd go, things they'd see, experiences they'd share. Bali first. Kang-Dae decided one evening, maps spread across the coffee table. I want to see you in the ocean. Then maybe Italy, Greece, anywhere that has good food and better wine and no one trying to kill us. That sounds perfect. We'll leave in a month. Once I'm fully healed and the organization is stable, just disappear for a while. Be normal people doing normal things. I've never been normal. Me neither. We'll figure it out together. 3 weeks after the shipyard confrontation, Mrs. Kim visited the penthouse. She brought food, homemade japchae and kimchi, and tears when she saw Mia. Child, I thought I'd lost you. When you left that night, I thought I'd never see you again. I'm sorry I scared you. Don't be sorry. Be happy. Mrs. Kim looked at Kang-Dae, then back at Mia, and smiled. You found something worth staying for. I did. Good. You deserve happiness. Both of you. The old woman didn't stay long, but her blessing felt significant. Like permission to want this, to build this, to believe in something beyond survival. That night, lying in bed with Kang-Dae's arms around her, Mia felt something she hadn't experienced in over a decade. Peace. What are you thinking? Kang-Dae murmured against her hair. That I spent 10 years running from my past, convinced I didn't deserve anything better than hiding. And then I walked into your life in the most violent way possible, and somehow, she turned in his arms to face him. Somehow it feels like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. His smile was soft, full of love that still took her breath away. I spent a year knowing I was dying, accepting it, resigning myself to fading away quietly. Then you appeared and reminded me what it feels like to be alive, to want things, to fight for every moment. He kissed her forehead. You saved my life twice, Mia. Once in that noodle shop, and once by giving me a reason to keep living. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. They made love slowly, tenderly, mapping each other's scars, his from bullets and betrayal, hers from years of loneliness and fear. Afterward, wrapped in each other, they talked about the future. Not the shadow of his illness, but the brightness of what they'd build together. 5 years, Kang-Dae said softly. Maybe less. Maybe more if we're lucky. Every day is a gift. We'll make them count. Travel. Real experiences. Maybe. He hesitated. Maybe something permanent. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other in the traditional sense, but are you asking me to marry you? Eventually. When you're ready. When it feels right. He pulled back to look at her. I'm just saying. I want everything with you, Mia. Whatever time we have. I want to make it official. Build a life that's ours. She felt tears gathering. I want that too. All of it. The travel, the life, the future. You. Then you'll have it. Have me. For as long as I'm here. And after? The question hurt to ask, but she needed to know. After you're gone? After I'm gone, you keep living. You take the organization if you want it, or you walk away if you don't. You find happiness again, love again, build something new. His voice was fierce. Don't you dare let my death be the end of your story, Mia. Promise me. I can't think about that right now. Promise me anyway. She closed her eyes, pressed her face against his chest. I promise. But only if you promise to fight for every single day. No giving up. No accepting defeat. We fight together until the very end. Deal. They fell asleep tangled together, two people who'd found each other in the chaos and decided that was enough. That love could bloom in violence. That connection could survive impossible circumstances. That sometimes, the things that seem to ruin our lives are actually the things that save us. 6 months later, Mia stood on a beach in Bali, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Kang-Dae came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. Happy, he asked. Deliriously. They'd spent the last months traveling, experiencing the world, living with an intensity that came from knowing time was precious. They'd married quietly in Greece, just the two of them and an officiant who spoke broken English. They'd danced in Italian piazzas and eaten street food in Bangkok and watched the northern lights in Iceland. The organization ran smoothly under Detective Yoon's capable management. Jin-woo had chosen exile, starting over in Singapore with enough money to build something legitimate. The others had accepted Mia as Kang-Dae's partner, his equal, the woman who'd changed everything. And every morning, Kang-Dae woke up breathing, fighting, living. I love you, Mia said, turning in his arms. I love you too. More than I thought possible. Any regrets? Only that I didn't walk into that noodle shop sooner. Didn't find you years ago. Didn't get more time. We have now. That's enough. Yeah, he agreed, kissing her as the sun disappeared into the ocean. It is. For years later, Mia sat beside Kang-Dae's bed, holding his hand. The cancer had finally won, spreading despite treatments, despite fighting, despite everything they'd tried. He was thin now, pale, but his eyes were still bright when he looked at her. No tears, he said softly. We agreed. I know, but you're making it very hard to keep that promise. We had 4 years. 4 incredible years. More than the doctors predicted. More than I deserved. You deserved everything. I got everything. I got you. He squeezed her hand weakly. And you're going to be okay. You're going to keep living, keep building, keep being extraordinary. I don't know how to do this without you. Yes, you do. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You'll grieve, and then you'll live. You'll honor me by being happy, by finding joy again, by not letting my death define you. Detective Yoon stood in the doorway, giving them privacy but staying close. Lee Taeyong waited outside with the others, the family they'd built together. I love you, Kang-Dae whispered. Thank you for the best 4 years of my life. I love you too. Thank you for teaching me how to stop running. He smiled, closed his eyes, and slipped away peacefully, surrounded by love. 1 year later, Mia stood in the newly renovated Golden Bowl, watching Mrs. Kim train the new staff. The restaurant had expanded, become a community hub, funded by the organization's legitimate profits. She wore a simple ring on her finger, Kang-Dae's wedding band, resized to fit her. She'd kept her promise. She grieved, but she lived. She ran the organization with Detective Yoon, transforming it into something Kang-Dae would have been proud of. She traveled still, carrying his ashes to all the places they'd planned to visit together. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, she'd sit on the penthouse balcony and remember. The 28 seconds that changed everything. The man who'd looked at her like she was extraordinary. The love that had bloomed in impossible circumstances. It took exactly 28 seconds for Mia to ruin her life. But in those 28 seconds, she'd also found it. Found purpose. Found connection. Found love that lasted beyond death. She'd learned that the moments that seem to destroy us can actually save us. That running isn't the same as surviving. That sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop hiding and let ourselves be seen, be known, be loved. Kang-Dae had given her 4 years. But more than that, he'd given her permission to live fully, love deeply, and believe that she deserved happiness. And that gift would last the rest of her life. The lesson: sometimes the moments that seem to ruin everything are actually the moments that save us. Mia spent 10 years hiding, convinced that survival meant isolation. In 28 seconds, she lost her carefully constructed safety, but gained something far more valuable: connection, purpose, and love. This story teaches us that conscience matters more than safety, that family is defined by choice rather than blood, and that knowing a relationship has an ending doesn't make it less worth having. Mia and Kang-Dae had 4 years together, 4 years built on honesty, passion, and the knowledge that time was limited. Those 4 years held more life than many people experience in decades. We all face moments where we can choose safety or action, hiding or connection. Mia's story reminds us that the cost of never truly living is higher than any risk we take by opening our hearts. Love doesn't require forever to be real. Connection doesn't require certainty to be meaningful. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is permission to want something, even when we know it can't last forever. Kang-Dae taught Mia to stop running. Mia taught Kang-Dae to fight for every moment. Together, they proved that even in the darkest circumstances, with the shortest timelines, human connection can transform everything. Thank you for staying with Mia and Kang-Dae's journey until the very end. If this story moved you, please hit that like button one final time and subscribe to our channel so you never miss stories like this. Drop a comment below telling me what touched you most about their love story and what you learned from their journey together. Your engagement helps us create more content like this every single day. Until next time, remember, it's not about how much time you have. It's about what you do with the time you're given. Live fully, love deeply, and never let fear keep you from the connections that might save you.